Welcome back after the break. We will be catching up with our guests earlier a little bit later, but right now in studio, we are joined by two members of the Youth League, the ANC Youth League.
So these comrades, this is Comrade Mzwanile Masina and Comrade Kumbuzo Nchabeni, and they both represent the interim structure, the National Task Team, that is leading the ANC Youth League. So we thought it's fitting, because Nelson Mandela was such a pivotal figure in the foundation of the Youth League, as well as a leader of this, to actually bring your thoughts into this particular discussions. I'm sure you've heard the discussions we've had, and we're now fixed at the point around the Defiance campaign. But, you know, what are the building blocks of this mass leader, Nelson Mandela, before he goes into the Defiance campaign?
No, thank you very much for having us. I think very importantly, the year 1943 becomes very important because Nelson Mandela and the people of his generation felt that it was necessary to change the method of struggle in the African National Congress. They went to the ANC conference in 1943, advocated for the establishment of the ANC Youth League, which was eventually established in 1944. At that point, more important, you will know that they came up with what was called then a program of action of 1949, which introduced a militant way of doing things in the African National Congress. That's where you find the Defiance campaign, the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe, the campaigning of towards the consolidation of Freedom Charter, and all those programs. So that's where Nelson Mandela played a major role. You'll know that in the Defiance campaign, he became a volunteer-in-chief during the 1955 Freedom Charter adoption. He went around throughout the country canvassing signatures so that that document can become the people's document. When Umkhonto weSizwe was formed, he became the commander-in-chief of Umkhonto weSizwe. So that's the man in Nelson Mandela.
I suppose the question is he a product of the Youth League, or is the Youth League a product of him? And if he is a product of the Youth League, how does the Youth League produce more Mandelas?
I think what's important to remember is that Nelson Mandela was not alone in the formation of the ANC Youth League. There was a collective of other young leaders who advocated for the same thing. They just opted to make him the leader of that collective, the collective that included Walter Sisulu and the like. So, and they worked as a collective and they guided each other. And the Nelson Mandela that the world, and us as South African, we are mourning and celebrating, remember, is the one who is also known during his Youth League days of disrupting meetings when he did not agree with a view. And it means that Nelson Mandela is a product. Though he founded the Youth League with others, he is a product of the Youth League. The Youth League molded him, that collective molded him, because they're the ones who guided him and advised, and even to their credit, they opted to say, we can't all compete for space. We need to...
But this is now actually, you're raising a very valuable point, because sitting here as a fellow South African, we're kind of going, that's great, and there's a lot of fear that now he's gone, things will just fall apart, and our earlier guests had mentioned that that will not happen. So as ANC Youth League, how do we take his legacy forward? What lessons and core values that him and that collective had set up are we going to take forward into our country from now on?
Look, I think if there's any lesson one can draw from Nelson Mandela, was his ability to work within collective leadership. At any given time, no individuals in the organization takes individual decisions. So we can safely say to South Africans today, the ANC Youth League, the African National Congress, and South Africa under the rule of the ANC will always continue in the same values of collective leadership, which is a point of comfort, because in other parties you have one man running the entire system, which is likely to collapse. So I can say without doubt that if we were to carry the legacy of Nelson Mandela, we'll have to ensure that internal democracy is entrenched, but more importantly, we must respect the will of the people through majority rule, which is what we call democratic centralism in the ANC.
Now, in the Madiba's era, the refrain of the time was freedom in our lifetime. What is the refrain of the time now for the Youth League, and does it have the wherewithal to make that a reality?
I think the refrain of the Youth League is not outside that which is the refrain of the ANC, a better life for all. And a better life for all is not something you achieve overnight. We work towards it. We are not there, but we work towards it. Those of us in the ANC, we know we are committed to the National Democratic Revolution. And in that National Democratic Revolution, it means we need to make the lives of our people better. We need to share the wealth. We need to be responsible and build our country.
I think just to add, you know, we are now talking about economic freedom in our lifetime. And you know, the generation of 1944 declared that they wanted freedom in their lifetime. 50 years later, in 1994, they delivered freedom. And they did so because they had properly theorized the struggle for freedom in their lifetime, and they had a very clear program of action, the program of 1949. What we will do as this generation, if we want to achieve economic freedom in our lifetime, we'll have to properly theorize that so that we don't think that that is our name and surname. We must know that this is a generational struggle. It requires us to apply our minds so that we are not narrow in our approach, but also we must then develop a very clear program of action that begins to talk to what needs to be done between now and the next 8 years, because it's not going to be achieved tomorrow. We can march from here to Johannesburg. We are not going to achieve economic freedom. Yeah. What is important, we must focus on the basics, and our view is that the starting point is education. We are calling on all young South Africans to focus and intensify education. As the Youth League, we are fighting very hard to ensure that education is free up to tertiary level here. At least if you can get your first degree or diploma, we can safely say you are almost moving there.
Absolutely. We'll pick up on this discussion a little bit later. Nelson Mandela enrolled, speaking about education, at quite a few higher learning institutions in those years already. Although he didn't complete any of these studies at the time, he encouraged young people from an early age to invest in their futures and learn as much as they can and go as high as they can. Education was always very important to him. I hope you enjoy this clip.
The Africans want the franchise on the basis of one man, one vote. They want political independence.
Do you see Africans being able to develop in this country without the European being pushed out?
We have made it very clear in our policy that South Africa is a country of many races. There is room for all the various races in this country.
Are there many educated Africans in South Africa?
Yes. We have a large number of Africans who are educated and who are taking part in the political struggles of the African people. The question of education has nothing to do with the question of the vote. On numerous occasions, it has been proved in history that people can enjoy the vote even if they have no education. Of course, we desire education, and we think it's a good thing. But you don't have to have education in order to know that you want certain fundamental rights, you have got aspirations, you have got claims. It has nothing to do with education whatsoever.